What is your money doing right now? Imagine spending nearly 30 years doing everything society told you was responsible. You wake up early, you work hard, you pay your bills on time, you avoid debt whenever possible. You don't live extravagantly. You believe you're making all the right financial decisions. Then one ordinary Tuesday afternoon, you check your bank account and discover you have just $10 left. Not $10 after shopping, not $10 before payday, $10 to your name after nearly 3 decades of working. That was the moment Linda's entire understanding of money fell apart. At 50 years old, she wasn't lazy, she wasn't reckless, she wasn't addicted to shopping or gambling. She had simply spent her entire adult life asking the wrong questions. The lesson she learned over the next few years would completely change the way she viewed every dollar she earned. More importantly, it might change the way you think about your own money today. Because by the end of this story, you'll understand 3 simple questions that separate people who stay trapped in the paycheck cycle from those who slowly build real financial freedom. And trust me, the 3rd question is the one almost nobody asks, even though it quietly determines their financial future. Before we begin, if you're serious about building wealth, instead of just earning a paycheck, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Every week, we break down the habits, psychology, and strategies that help ordinary people create extraordinary financial lives. Now, let's meet Linda. At first glance, Linda looked like someone who had life under control. She lived in a modest neighborhood. She drove a reliable 10-year-old sedan. She rarely bought designer clothes. She packed lunch for work most days. Her coworkers often joked that she was the responsible one. If someone forgot their wallet, Linda was always willing to help. If someone needed budgeting advice, they asked Linda. Ironically, Linda herself believed she was financially secure. Not wealthy, just safe. Every 2 weeks, her paycheck arrived. The bills got paid. The refrigerator stayed full. The lights stayed on. Life continued. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt stable. Or at least, that's what she told herself. Because stability can sometimes be an illusion. When you're constantly earning just enough to survive, it feels normal. You stop questioning whether your money is actually building your future. You become so focused on surviving this month that you never prepare for the years ahead. Linda never realized she was running on a treadmill. She was moving constantly, working tirelessly. Yet financially, she wasn't getting anywhere. For nearly 28 years, Linda's life followed the exact same rhythm. Payday arrived. First came rent, then electricity. Water, internet, insurance, car payment, groceries, fuel, phone bill. Then came the small expenses, coffee on the way to work, a streaming subscription she barely used, a birthday gift, takeout because she was too tired to cook, a sale she couldn't resist because it was too good to miss. None of these purchases seemed dangerous on their own. In fact, each one felt reasonable. That's what made them so powerful. Little by little, they quietly consumed every dollar she earned. By the time the next payday approached, there was almost nothing left. Then the cycle started again. Month after month, year after year. Without realizing it, Linda had become an expert at spending money, but a complete beginner at growing it. It happened on a rainy Tuesday morning. Linda had just settled into her desk with her first cup of coffee when her manager walked over. "Can you come with me for a minute?" Her stomach tightened. She knew that tone. Inside the conference room sat someone from Human Resources. There was a folder on the table, a box of tissues in the corner. Before anyone spoke, Linda already knew something was wrong. The company was restructuring. Economic conditions had forced difficult decisions. Her department was being eliminated. Her position no longer existed. The words sounded polite, professional, carefully rehearsed. But all Linda heard was one sentence. "You no longer have a job." 28 years, gone in less than 15 minutes. She packed family photos into a cardboard box, collected her coffee mug, shook a few hands, accepted hugs she barely remembered, then walked to her car in complete silence. The rain had stopped, but inside, a storm had just begun. That evening, Linda sat alone at her kitchen table. She opened her laptop, logged into her online banking, and began doing the math. She calculated her final paycheck, her remaining bills, her automatic withdrawals, insurance, utilities, mortgage payment, everything. Then she looked at the balance that would remain. $10. She refreshed the page. Still $10. She checked another account. Almost empty. Her savings account? Barely enough to cover groceries for a week. Retirement investments? Almost non-existent. She leaned back in her chair. Not crying, not screaming, just staring. One thought kept repeating in her mind. I've worked almost 30 years. So how did I end up here? She wasn't asking where the money had gone. She already knew. Rent, bills, food, transportation, life. What she couldn't understand was why all those years of effort had left her with almost nothing to show for it. The next morning, Linda couldn't stay inside. She left the house without any destination. She simply walked. The cool air helped clear her mind. Eventually, she found herself standing outside a small neighborhood cafe. Normally, she would have ordered her favorite latte. That morning, she hesitated. Even $5 suddenly felt expensive. Instead, she ordered the cheapest cup of tea on the menu. She found a quiet table near the window. The cafe buzzed with conversations. People laughed. Students typed on laptops. Business meetings filled the room. Yet Linda felt completely alone. She pulled out a notebook and began writing every expense she could remember. Rent, insurance, utilities, food, gas, phone, subscriptions. She filled an entire page. Then another. When she finished, she realized something startling. Every dollar she had earned over the years had been assigned a destination, but none of those destinations had been creating a better future. Her money had always been leaving. It had never been returning. She stared at the page, unaware that someone had quietly taken the seat across from her. An elderly man with kind eyes looked at the notebook and smiled. Looks like you're trying to solve a difficult problem. Linda sighed. You could say that. He nodded slowly. I've found that the biggest financial problems usually begin with the smallest questions. Linda looked up. What do you mean? The man folded his hands, leaned forward, and asked a question so simple that it almost sounded foolish. A question that would completely reshape the rest of Linda's life. He asked, Tell me, what is your money doing right now? Linda frowned. She opened her mouth to answer, then stopped. Because for the first time in 50 years, she realized she had absolutely no idea. The mysterious stranger reveals the first question that transformed Linda's finances forever. Is your money consuming or producing? She begins uncovering hidden spending habits, learns why most people unknowingly train themselves to stay broke, and discovers a simple shift in thinking that quietly changes everything. Linda looked across the table at the elderly man. What is my money doing right now? She repeated quietly. The question sounded simple, but the more she thought about it, the more impossible it became to answer. She could tell him where her money had gone. Rent, groceries, insurance, electricity, gas. She could even list the exact amount she spent on coffee every month. But what was her money doing now? She had never thought about that. The man smiled as though he had seen this reaction hundreds of times before. Most people, he said, can account for every dollar they've spent. Very few can tell you what their dollars are doing after they leave their hands. Linda leaned forward. I don't understand. That's because nobody teaches us to think this way. He picked up 2 sugar packets from the table and placed them in front of her. Imagine these are your last $2. He slid the first packet toward her. You spend this on something that disappears the moment you buy it. Then he pushed the second packet aside. You use this one to buy something that keeps creating value long after you've spent it. He looked into her eyes. Both dollars are gone from your wallet. But only one is still working. Linda stared at the sugar packets. For the first time in her life, she realized that spending wasn't just spending. Some spending ended a dollar's journey. Other spending began one. The old man wrote 6 words in the corner of Linda's notebook. Consuming, or producing. Then he circled them. Before you spend another dollar, he said, ask yourself one question. Is this dollar consuming or producing? Linda frowned. Aren't all purchases just expenses? He shook his head. Not even close. Some expenses quietly make you richer. Others quietly make you poorer. The tragedy is that most people can't tell the difference. The two lives of every dollar. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a $1 bill. This dollar has two possible futures. He placed it flat on the table. In the first future, you buy something that gives you a few moments of pleasure. A fancy coffee. A gadget you'll forget in 3 months. A shirt you didn't actually need. The dollar is gone. It did its job. It gave you temporary enjoyment. But it will never come back. He paused. In the second future, that same dollar buys a book that teaches a valuable skill. It buys a small investment. It helps start a business. It pays for a certification that increases your income. Now that dollar has the opportunity to create another dollar. And another. And another. Linda sat quietly. She had never separated money into those two categories. To her, spending had always been one big pile. Necessary. Unnecessary. That's all. Now she was seeing something completely different. That afternoon, Linda returned home and opened her notebook again. This time, she drew a line down the center of the page. On the left, she wrote, consumed. On the right, she wrote, produced. Then she began listing every major purchase she had made over the last 10 years. A new television. Consumed. Designer handbags bought during sales. Consumed. Kitchen appliances she rarely used. Consumed. Furniture bought on credit because it looked fashionable. Consumed. Vacation souvenirs. Consumed. She wasn't judging herself. She was simply observing. Then she searched for purchases that had continued creating value. A professional course she had taken years ago. Produced. The computer she used to improve her work skills. Produced. A financial book that taught her budgeting. Produced. There weren't many. The page became painfully one-sided. She wasn't poor because she never earned money. She wasn't poor because she never earned money. She wasn't poor because she never earned money. He'd been trained to disappear. The hidden trap. Most people never notice. Over the next few days, Linda couldn't stop watching people. She noticed something fascinating. A coworker bought lunch every day without thinking twice. Another upgraded his phone even though the old one worked perfectly. Someone else financed an expensive car because they wanted to impress neighbors. Nobody asked whether these dollars would ever return. They only asked one question. Can I afford it? The old man's voice echoed in Linda's mind. That's the wrong question. The better question is, will this dollar ever find its way back to me? That single shift changes everything. Because affordability and value are not the same thing. You can afford many things that quietly keep you broke. And sometimes the purchases that seem expensive today become the ones that transform your future. A week later, Linda met the old man again at the cafe. This time, he told her a story. When I was 25, he began, I bought an expensive camera. My friends laughed. They said I had wasted my savings. For months, they were right. I earned nothing from it. But I kept learning. I practiced every weekend. I photographed weddings for free. Then people started paying. Years later, that one camera had earned hundreds of thousands of dollars. He smiled. My friends were correct about one thing. The camera was expensive. They were wrong about the important part. It wasn't an expense. It was an investment. Linda immediately thought about all the things she had called expensive. Books, courses, learning new skills, networking events. She had avoided many of them to save money. Yet she had spent thousands on things that no longer existed. The realization hurt, but it also gave her hope. Because if she could change the direction of $1, she could eventually change the direction of them all. The following Friday, Linda received a small severance payment. Normally, fear would have taken over. She might have looked for comfort in shopping, or convinced herself she deserved a reward after everything she'd been through. Instead, she opened her notebook. At the top of the page, she wrote, "What is this money going to do after it leaves me?" It was the first time she had ever asked that question. She bought only what she truly needed. She canceled subscriptions she hadn't used in months. She sold furniture collecting dust in her garage. She stopped buying things simply because they were on sale. Then she took a small portion of the money and enrolled in an online certification program that could qualify her for higher-paying positions. It wasn't glamorous. There was no instant reward, no one applauded, but something had changed inside her. For the first time, she wasn't just spending money. She was giving it a purpose. The old man had one final lesson before they parted that afternoon. He said, "Every dollar is like an employee. You are the manager. Some employees work hard every day. Others sit around doing nothing. And some actually cost you money. The question is, are you hiring your dollars to build your future, or paying them to disappear?" Linda walked home thinking about those words. She realized that for nearly 30 years, she had been firing every dollar the moment she earned it. Now she wanted to build a team of dollars that would continue working long after she stopped. She didn't know exactly how yet, but she knew where to start. One intentional decision at a time, one purposeful dollar at a time, and one powerful question before every purchase. Is this money consuming or producing? She had learned the first lesson, but the second question would challenge her even more. Because it wasn't about spending. It was about something far more frightening. It forced her to imagine a day when she could no longer work. And what she discovered would change the course of her life forever. Linda faces the second life-changing question. If you stopped working today, what would continue paying you? What begins as a frightening realization leads her to discover the difference between earning an income and building income, a distinction that quietly separates those who stay trapped in the paycheck cycle from those who achieve lasting financial freedom. A week passed before Linda saw the elderly man again. As usual, he sat near the window of the little cafe, reading a worn notebook with a cup of black coffee beside him. When he noticed Linda walking in, he smiled. "You've been thinking." Linda laughed softly. "I haven't stopped thinking." She sat down, placed her notebook on the table, and said, "I've started asking myself whether my money is consuming or producing. It has already changed how I spend." The man nodded. "Good." Then he closed his notebook. "But spending wisely is only the beginning." Linda's smile faded. "What comes next?" He looked directly into her eyes and asked another question, one that immediately made her uncomfortable. "If you stopped working today, what would continue paying you?" Linda didn't answer. She didn't need to. The silence answered for her. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The old man drew 2 circles in Linda's notebook. Above the first one he wrote, "Income." Above the second one he wrote, "Assets." Most people spend their lives protecting the first circle, he explained. They work harder. They ask for raises. They change jobs. They work overtime. But they ignore the second circle. Linda looked puzzled. "Aren't they the same thing?" He smiled. "Not even close." He pointed to the first circle. "Income is what you earn because you work." Then he tapped the second. "Assets are what earn because they work." Linda stared at the page. No teacher had ever explained money that way. She had always believed earning more income was the solution. Now she realized income alone could never create freedom. Because the day she stopped working, her income stopped too. For years, Linda believed she was climbing a ladder. Every few years, her salary increased. She celebrated each raise. She felt successful. But every increase in income was followed by an increase in spending. A slightly nicer apartment, a newer car, more dining out, better furniture, a larger television. Her lifestyle quietly expanded until it matched her paycheck. The old man had a name for it, the paycheck trap. "The trap isn't earning more," he said. "The trap is allowing every extra dollar to disappear." He leaned back. If every raise immediately becomes a bigger lifestyle instead of a bigger investment, you're running faster without actually moving forward. Linda thought back to every promotion she'd ever received. He was right. She remembered feeling richer, but never becoming wealthier. A few weeks later, the old man gave Linda another lesson. Imagine 2 people. The first spends 30 years buying things. The second spends 30 years buying ownership. Linda listened carefully. The first person owns shelves full of products. The second owns pieces of companies. The first owns expensive clothes. The second owns businesses. The first collects monthly bills. The second collects monthly dividends. He paused. Who do you think sleeps better? Linda smiled. She already knew the answer. She realized that wealthy people weren't simply buying different products, they were buying different futures. Instead of asking, "What can I own?" they asked, "What can own me financially?" No, that wasn't right. The better question was, 1. Give every dollar a job before it leaves your account. Money without direction disappears. Money with purpose grows. 2. Buy assets before buying luxuries. The wealthy don't avoid enjoying life. They simply let their investments pay for tomorrow's luxuries. 3. Increase your skills every year. Your greatest investment isn't a stock. It's your ability to earn. Knowledge compounds just like money. 4. Avoid lifestyle inflation. Every raise doesn't require a bigger house, a newer car, or a more expensive vacation. Sometimes the smartest upgrade is your investment account. 5. Keep an emergency fund. Unexpected problems become expensive only when you're unprepared. Savings don't eliminate emergencies. They eliminate panic. 6. Be patient. Wealth grows quietly. Most people quit because they expect dramatic results too quickly. 7. Remember that money is a tool, not the destination. Money cannot buy happiness, but it can buy choices. It can buy time. It can buy peace of mind, and those are priceless. Linda folded the paper carefully and slipped it into her notebook. She knew she would keep it forever. 5 years later, 5 years passed. The little cafe had changed ownership. The old wooden tables had been replaced. The walls were painted a different color. One afternoon, Linda walked inside carrying a laptop instead of a notebook. She looked healthier, more relaxed, more confident. She ordered coffee without checking her bank balance first, not because she had become careless, but because she had become prepared. Her emergency fund now covered several months of living expenses. Her investments had grown steadily. She had earned promotions because she continued learning new skills. She had even started a small online business that generated additional income. Life wasn't perfect. Markets still went up and down. Unexpected expenses still happened. But one thing had permanently changed. Money no longer controlled her emotions. She controlled her money. As she looked around the cafe, she realized the elderly man wasn't there. She asked the barista if he knew him. The young man smiled sadly. He used to come here almost every morning. He passed away last year. Linda lowered her eyes. For a moment, she couldn't speak. The barista reached beneath the counter. He left something here. He said if a woman named Linda ever came back, this belonged to her. It was the same notebook the old man always carried. Inside the first page was a handwritten message. Money is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. Teach your money to work while you build a life worth living. Your friend. Linda closed the notebook with tears in her eyes. She realized something extraordinary. The greatest gift the old man had given her wasn't financial advice. It was a different way of thinking. The 3 questions that can change your life. Before we end this story, I want to leave you with the same 3 questions that changed Linda's life. Don't just listen to them. Pause this video. Write them down. Answer them honestly. Question 1. Is my money consuming or producing? Every dollar you spend is choosing one of those paths. Question 2. If I stopped working today, what would continue paying me? If the answer is nothing, don't feel discouraged. Everyone starts somewhere. The important thing is to begin building today. Question 3. If my money could talk, what would it say about me? Would it describe someone who plans, or someone who reacts? Someone building freedom, or someone chasing appearances? Your bank statement tells a story. Make sure it's telling the story you want your future to read. If Linda had won the lottery that day, she had only $10 left. Her life might have changed temporarily. But because she changed her mindset instead, her life changed permanently, and that's the lesson I hope you take away from this story. Financial freedom isn't reserved for people born into wealth. It isn't guaranteed by a 6-figure salary. It doesn't happen because of luck. It begins the moment you stop asking, How much money do I have? And start asking, what is my money doing for me right now? Every dollar you earn is an opportunity, an employee, a seed, a choice. Some dollars disappear forever. Others quietly build the future you've always dreamed about. The decision belongs to you. So, before you leave, I'd love to hear from you. Which of the 3 questions challenged you the most? Share your answer in the comments below. Your story might inspire someone else to take the first step toward financial freedom. If this video gave you a new perspective on money, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Every week, we bring you powerful stories and practical strategies to help you build lasting wealth, make smarter financial decisions, and create a life where your money works as hard as you do. Until next time, remember, don't spend your life working only for money. Build a future where your money works faithfully for you.